toward the Nearpod so that we can review it later on. All right, so the Nearpod code is arriving very, very soon. There it should be in the classroom. It should be 6PBF3. Hopefully that's the one that I posted in the classroom, 6PBF3. So if you could join the Nearpod, join.nearpod.com, or click on the link and it should take you straight there. Now, if you get lost at all, the code usually is up here in the top left-hand corner. If we have an issue with the internet, right, and I know that that sometimes happens, please don't panic, okay? We've had a few issues, you know, with it dropping in and out. If it happens, stay on the line, and I'll do my best to reactivate it all and come back to you. And if that doesn't work, then I'll just post some material into the classroom and you'll be able to work your way through that potentially. All right, now we're introducing some key economic thinking. Now, it is a little bit terminology heavy. It is a little bit theory heavy at this point, and I apologize for that. But when we're talking about what economics is, we kind of need to have that framework in place so that we can then use the tools, the terms, the models, as we move forward in the course, to be able to answer some of those key questions about what are we going to actually produce, okay, as an economy. What are we going to make? How are we going to make it? And who's going to get it? Who will get that particular good or service? We talked a bit about how we do make things, and a lot of those decisions have to do with the land, right, or natural resources, gifts of nature. So the air, the water, the animals, the minerals, all of those sorts of things, they're all under this category of land. Labor, we said that was us, the workers. We, the labor, do the work. The capital was the machinery used in production, and there's a whole range of those, more and more seemingly every day. Now, enterprise is the fancy word. All right, it's that French word entrepreneurship, which means a risk-taking manager, the person who brings all of those other resources together, produces a product, and aims to earn a profit from it. So what we have here then is this RUIP over here, right? And these are the rewards that you get for owning any of these. So if you own some land and you allow someone to use that land, then you are earning rent, okay? If you own your labor, which is you, and you allow someone to use your labor, then you are earning wages. Wages. And you might think about that idea and you might think to yourself, well, people who are earning wages, sometimes it takes a really long time for them to get paid. In fact, you might say that it takes wages for them to get paid. Yeah, right. That was just one of my jokes. Okay. For capital goods, the payment for owning capital goods is classified as interest. And the reward for being an enterprising person tends to be this idea of profit. So rent, wages, interest, profit, all able to be earned from owning these resources. Now, obviously, there are equity issues involved with this. Right? When you think about it, how fair is it that the people who own the land are able to charge rent? And if you don't own any land, then you can't get that as an income. You might be able to get income from wages, but no income from anything else, right? Okay, that's another question for another day. Now, here's what I want you to do to match the factor of production with the reward for owning that factor, right? So try and match up the pairs. Ready, go. See how you get on. Got about 30 odd seconds to have a go at that. Okay. Right, keep going, have a go. Good work, Dev. Well done. Run. Okay, good work, team. Waiting on a few more. Might be a couple of duplicates because we added obviously in today. So you might appear in the list twice, but don't panic if that's the case. All right, give you about another 30 seconds for any more to come in. Work team. All right, okay. Now, these were the pairs we were looking at. So land was rent, labor was the wages, enterprise was the profit, and capital goods was the interest. Well done, team. Oh, here we go. Here's your big, or one of the big theories that we're going to cover, and it is going to be a major theme that we need to consider right the way through all of economics, the idea of opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. And because it's economics, we tend to suggest that opportunity cost is inevitable. Anytime we make an economic decision, we're going to find this idea of opportunity cost coming into play. All right, now. Oh, hold on, let's go back. Sorry, apologies. What is opportunity cost? I've said it's inevitable. I've said it occurs anytime you make a decision. So an opportunity cost is going to be when you're making a decision, it's going to be the next best alternative that you give up when you've made that decision. Okay? So opportunity cost is going to be the next best decision. So you've made a decision, but the next best option that you can't now have because you chose the other one. Right? So if you have got a choice between two options for lunch, pizza and, what was it, seafood pizza? Seafood pizza and chicken, and you choose the seafood pizza, then the opportunity cost, the cost to you on the terms of opportunities that you've lost is the chicken. You can't then choose the chicken because you've chosen the seafood pizza. Right? So anytime you make an economic decision, because you've got scarce resources, right down to the time that you spend. So how much time do you spend doing one activity? That means that you potentially give up time on the other activity. Yeah. So the more time you spend playing Fortnite, right, means the less time that you have to do some schoolwork or something like that. That's the idea there. You know? Spend your money on one product and you miss out on the opportunity of the next product. So all I want you to do in the next bit is give an example of an opportunity cost that applies to a consumer, to us, people who buy goods and services. Right? So all I want you to do, have a go, an example of an opportunity cost that applies to a consumer. There you go. Right, so an opportunity cost that would apply to a consumer. Have a go, team. Type one in. Make a decision, and then there's an opportunity that they miss. What would that be? Some answers coming in. Good work, Harris. Yeah, that's the idea. Well done. Yeah, and Ryan, you're on the right path there with this idea. You've got to choose one or the other. We're going to assume that you spend all of your money, okay? And because you've got limited money, then obviously that's your option, yeah? But the idea is you spend all of your money and you've got to choose one or the other. So if you choose the cheeseburger, then you're going to miss out on the fillet of fish. That's what we're thinking there, but that's good options though. Using money on a motorbike. Yes. Yeah. So the motorbike would be the second best, right? So they bought the car, they could have bought a motorbike. So the motorbike is the opportunity cost. Right? It needs to be one option. Yeah. So in essence, what you're doing is you're ranking, right, the choices that you have. You're ranking the options that you have. So you have the best option, that usually is the one you choose. Then there's the second best option, and that one will be your opportunity cost. Okay, yeah, that could be an option there, AJ. Yes, indeed. That's a good one. Yeah, gummy worms and sacrificing a pack of gummy bears, right? Okay, not one I would have thought of. Yes, good. Remember that what you're doing is you're ranking the options. So the games or YouTube potentially is going to be one option. Yeah, so it might be studying is the best option. Then the second best option is the playing games. The third best option might be watching YouTube. But because you've chosen to study, the playing games option is now unavailable. Yes. Hold on. Yes, so you've chosen to, Dustin, you've chosen to invest in A rather than B. So A is the option that you've chosen. So that's your number one choice. So B is going to be the opportunity cost, right? So because you've chosen A, you're unable to choose B. All right. Somebody sent me a message. Okay. All right. Well done, team. This is a really good skill, right? Because what this is doing is you've got a definition of a concept here, and you are then applying it, so giving it an example that applies in a real life situation. So you're using the theory and you're coming up with a real life scenario in order to do that. Okay? So if we jump back to the meat, let's consider a decision that you might make. Okay, let's do lunch. Lunch is usually a fairly standard sort of affair. Right, so who's going to be my example for lunch? Who wants to be the example person? Volunteers to be an example person. You don't have to do much, you just have to write to the chat section. Who's going to be the example person?
I could be.
You could be Dev, all right. Okay, so Dev is the example person. So Dev, we're going to give some options with regards to your lunch, okay? And all I want you to do is to rank them in order, right? So the thing you'd prefer the most, all the way to the thing you'd prefer the least, okay? So I'm going to type them in so you can see them. So I'm going to put in pizza, sushi, and maybe McDonald's. It was mentioned before. So there are 4 options for your lunch: pizza, chicken, sushi, McDonald's. So all I'm wanting you to do, Dev, is to rank them in order of preference. So rank them in order of what you would prefer. Which one is your number 1 choice? If you had the choice of any of that, what would be your number 1 choice? Then what would be your number 2 choice, your number 3 choice, and so on?
Pizza will be my first choice, McDonald's second, chicken third, and sushi fourth.
All right. So what Dev has told us then is that he's going to choose pizza. That's his number 1 choice. So because he has chosen pizza, his second best choice is not able to be gained. So he is losing out on the second best choice. So the McDonald's is his opportunity cost. Right? If he'd decided he's going to the food court, right, and he knows these are the restaurants that he could possibly choose from, he's ranked all of this in his head already. He walks in and he notices that the pizza place isn't open yet. So pizza is now off the menu. So that means that he's now down to McDonald's, chicken, or sushi. So therefore, McDonald's becomes his number 1 choice, and chicken is going to be his opportunity cost. All right? And it's going to keep going down the line. So if he walks into the food court, the pizza place isn't open yet, McDonald's isn't open yet, but the chicken place and the sushi place are open. So now you've got a choice of 2. Dev has ranked chicken higher than sushi. So chicken is going to be his number 1 choice, and sushi will be his opportunity. That's how it works, all right? And what we do in economics is we assume everybody behaves like this. Everybody in their head is mentally ranking all of their decisions, right? And choosing their best decision, right, their best choice, and then therefore missing out on their second best choice. Right, let's go back into the Nearpod. Now, we had 3 decisions, yeah? We had the decision which was, what are we going to make? Then we had a decision which was, how are we going to make it? And the next key decision that we have is, who's going to be able to get it? Now, when we talk about how economies figure all of that out, we tend to go back to the governments, and we tend to think about how those economies are structured, how their governments are put in place. Right? There's one type of government called a command or a planned economy. And that's where, quite literally, as it's written, okay, the government says this is what's going to happen. Right? We're going to make this product. We're going to make 10,000 of them. We're going to make them using these ingredients, and these are the people who are allowed to have them. Yeah? That's a very command-based system, a very planned-out system. And the other extreme is this one, which is the free market. Okay? And the idea of a free market is pretty much exactly as it sounds. It's a marketplace. So any of those decisions, what's going to be produced, how is it going to be produced, who gets it, they all occur in the market. But we say it's free market so that there's no government involvement at all. It's the market that decides. All of the businesses out there, they're all trying to sell their product to all of the consumers who are out there. And if the consumer buys the product, then it's bought. If the consumer doesn't buy the product, then it's not bought. All right, so if I jump back here just for a couple of seconds. Have you heard, team, of a product called DVDs?
Yes.
Old-fashioned technology,
Obviously.
I know. You've heard of them?
Yes.
Yeah, I have some as well.
You have?
Yeah, from back when I was a child.
What you might be surprised to know is that when they were first being created, there was disagreements about the type of quality in manufacturing and how they were going to be made, right? And it ended up that there were two companies, right, who came up with two different ways to make these DVDs. Okay? And these two companies basically fought with each other in order to who had the best product, right? And what ended up happening was all of the customers ended up kind of naturally going to one format over the other. So they went to that one format and they just ignored the other format to the extent where it now no longer exists, effectively. And that was called the format wars, right? And a time before that, decades before that, you might be aware of a certain type of technology called VHS tapes. Anybody heard of those before?
Yes.
Now, VHS tapes, they went through exactly the same process. You had a technology called a VHS tape, then there was another technology that was doing effectively exactly the same thing, but it was made by a different company. And in the market, consumers decided VHS tapes, that's what they wanted. They didn't want the other company at all. So that entire company and product line effectively just disappeared. That's what the market is about. Produce a product, then if people want that product, they buy it. If they don't want it, they don't buy it, and you can't sell it. Have you heard of a company called Coca-Cola?
Yes.
Good. Okay. That means their marketing is going well, right? Coca-Cola in the 1980s introduced a new product. It was called New Coke. It was the same Coca-Cola, but they'd tweaked the recipe a bit. They'd made it a bit sweeter and, changed it around a little bit, okay? Unfortunately, what happened was the customers didn't want that product. They wanted the original product. There were protests, believe it or not, in the streets, bring back Coke, yeah? Which, is kind of an odd thing to do. It caused such a stir that Coca-Cola had to completely drop this product and keep their original product, which became known as Coke Classic. It was the original design. So the market decides. So in those sorts of free markets, it is about the production of the product, but it's also about the consumers and what they demand as to what actually happens. So that can be a bit scary because it may be that the product being demanded isn't the best one, yeah? But the market decides it. It may be that in the marketplace, the product is being charged a price that you don't like because you can't access it. But the market has decided. Then we get this one. Right, this is a type of government that kind of exists in the middle of these two. It's called a mixed economy, not a mixed up economy, a mixed economy, because it's got elements of this and elements of this. There are parts of this economy where the government puts rules and regulations. You're allowed to produce using this product, but you're not allowed to produce with that product. You're allowed to sell these products, but you're not allowed to sell those products. All right, let's go back to this. Has anybody heard of a product called lead? Anybody know what lead is? Yes, like pencil lead, kind of, although it's not actually lead in a pencil, it's actually graphite, but yes, kind of. Right, we used to have lead in petrol. Right, the reason why lead was in petrol was because petrol used to explode. Still can, but not as easily as it used to. So they put the lead in it to stop it from exploding. Of course, that led to there was a whole lot of environmental issues with regards to lead in petrol and damage to the environment, etc. So they ended up doing away with the lead in the petrol, and then some older cars needed a lead additive. You actually had to add lead into the car again, right, if they were older. These days, the cars don't need the lead because they've got fancier engines and all sorts of technology that wasn't around in the old days. But what you may not know is that they used to make toys out of solid lead, right? Children's toys. like little toy soldiers made out of lead. Anybody think of a reason why it's not a good idea to have a children's toy made out of solid lead? Anybody know anything about lead? Yes, they suck on it. Why is that a problem? Anybody know? Yes, absolutely. Lead's poisonous. It's absolutely poisonous. Well done, team. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Rock stars, a lot of you. We used to make toys out of lead. Then the government said, no, don't do that. Right? And they weren't allowed to. But we didn't. That was not the only thing we used to do with lead. We used to paint the walls with lead. Right? It was cheap paint, lead paint. Right? Then we worked out that it wasn't very good for us. Yeah, we were getting sick because of the paint. Yeah? Now, if you think that's crazy, how about this? You know, fruit like bananas and apples and the like. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that's absolutely right. Most economic systems in the world are going to be mixed. Absolutely. We used to put fruit, well, we do put fruit in bowls and you put it on the table. But, you know, in climates like this, the fruit can go off quite quickly. So we needed a preservative in order to make sure that the fruit stayed fresh for longer. So they came out with lead. This will do it. And they painted the fruit with lead to make it last longer. Yeah. Oh, it gets worse. Yeah, it did last longer. The people eating the fruit didn't, but the fruit lasted longer. It gets worse than that. If you're familiar with history, and some of you might be, there's a Queen of England going back a while, okay? And one of the things she used to do, because it was considered a sign of beauty, she used to paint her face with lead, all right? White lead, paint it, because they thought that made her look beautiful. Right? And if you think that's mental, she also used to paint her teeth, but not with lead. No, with tar, black tar. So she had this like this cake painted face and really black teeth with like tar on it. And of course, you can imagine what happens if you paint your face with lead. You get the lead soaking into your skin, and yeah, lead poisoning. We used to do all sorts of these things, right? And then the government has said, no, don't do that. That's wrong, that's bad. And so it's put regulations into it. Yeah. We used to have, fly sprays and deodorants and, things that squirt, aerosols. And the thing that made them squirt was a chemical called chlorofluorocarbons, which was damaging to the environment. And we only discovered that after a little while. And then the government said, bad, get rid of it. So we did. So a lot of economies in the world are, as correctly identified, mixed. Because they're going to have rules that are command-based, but then they're also going to have some aspects that are going to be free market, where the market will decide. So there are a lot of these economies. There's not many of these, and there's probably not many of those either. But we need to try and figure out if there are any examples of them. So we will think about that. But why might you want a planned economy? Well, here's a big challenge. Why might you want one? Here's the first thing that reason why you might want a planned economy, because if you are particularly concerned about the level of income and wealth, then a planned economy could say everybody's got the same income. Everybody's got the same wealth. There you go, just like that. Right? Just like you've got the pizza, cut it all up, give everybody the same amount of slices. Right? It might mean that their economy doesn't do these rocketing ups and downs, roller coaster sort of scenario. And it might be that a planned economy is able to meet society's needs. Right? Now, this gentleman up here, who looks a little bit like evil Santa Claus, right? You might be familiar with him. He's actually, in history, he's classified as an economist. He really isn't, okay? But in any case, does anybody know his name? This is a famous quote of his, from each according to his abilities, to each according to his needs. Does anybody know who that guy is? I jump back to the meat. Who is evil Santa Claus? Who is he? Anybody know? Students are history.
Wait, evil Santa Claus?
That's my joke. I call him evil Santa Claus just because of the way he looks. Bit unfair on my behalf, yes. But I find it funny. Give you a clue, his first name begins with the letter K, and his second name, his surname, that's the one, well done, Karl Marx, absolutely. Why is he famous? What did he
He
call?
wrote the Communist Manifesto or something
He
like that.
absolutely did. Yeah, he and his mate Engels wrote the Communist Manifesto. Absolutely. He created basically socialism, communism, planned economies. More or less his idea. Yeah. Okay. One of the things he's wanting an economy, an economic system that meets everybody's needs. That's what he is wanting. But does that always match with real life? Now, this is my attempt at writing in Bahasa, I think, here. I don't know, I can't remember what it says. Does anybody know what that says? Bahasa speakers in the room? Isn't that idea of society idealistic? Yes, it is. It's absolutely idealistic. The point of socialism or the point of communism, in a way, is exactly that, the ideal. In fact, when you read the books about it, the idea is that you're going to progress as society until you reach a level of society that they classify as utopia, ideal, perfection, right? Where everybody has everything that they need, and everybody is sharing everything, and there's no, lords and hierarchies and all of those sorts of things. But because of his writing about all of this, there were revolutions, entire countries collapsing because they're all fighting each other with regards to it. And it caused things like, the Cold War and the advance of communist Russia and all of those sorts of things. The North Korean War, okay, what are called proxy wars. So a lot of these sorts of ideas have actually caused some real problems in history. Okay, all I want you to do is to try and explain why a planned economy might actually not be such a bad thing. Can you think of one of those advantages we listed for a planned economy? And chuck it in there. Away you go. Why might it not be such a bad thing for the government to tell everybody what to do? About 30 odd seconds. Have a go. Some answers already. Yeah. Good work, HA. We're thinking probably more equally distributed items. Are you meaning income, or are you just meaning goods and services? Possibly, I'm not sure. But yes, you're on the right path there. Less boom and bust, a stable economy. Yeah, that's the thought. Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly right, Deb. That's the idea. No one goes hungry, or no one is, denied medical care. That's the exact right idea. Yes, that's right. Less poverty. Less inequality of wealth. Well done, team. All right, a few more seconds to have a go. One advantage of a planned economy. Control the prices, that's an idea. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the less poverty idea. All right, team. Well, here we go. Big force of predictable situations. Okay. Yeah. All right. So you might have been in that situation where you've had to divide food up amongst a group of people. So it might be a pizza and you're trying to, you know, do you give everyone the same number of slices? Do you give everyone the same size of slice of pizza? Right? That would be equal. Right? But is that fair on the bigger people? Right? You wouldn't give a baby a huge, you know, adult-sized portion of food. Right? But what do you do with that? You know? So these sorts of economic systems, the planned ones, are going to try to make things more equal. And some people will like that idea. Other people will be very much against the idea. And this is why they might be against it. It is incredibly expensive to organize. Right? Remember, you're trying to organize your entire economy. Just think about how enormous that is. Right? Some of the examples of planned economies, I mean, we talked about one of them, right? The former Soviet Union, you're talking millions and millions and millions of people. Right? And they're being organized. Someone somewhere in an office is deciding what's being produced, how it's being produced, and who it's going to, for everybody in the entire economy, right the way through, including deciding what jobs the people are going to have. And how many, you know, products they're going to make. You need to make 10,000 of these taps this week. You need to build 5 buildings. Go. It's inefficient. You end up with wasting resources because they're not going to where it's potentially the best place for those resources. There is a lack of incentives. Why would you try? Why would you try hard? Why would you look to get a promotion or become higher up? You know, in the job, right? The government's just giving you your job, right? It's giving you a guaranteed income. Why would you try harder? So all of that leads to a level of productivity that tends to be quite low. We need 10,000 taps. Well, I don't know. You know? Consumer needs, therefore, won't be actually met. And quite often, some of the decisions that they make are actually going to be more politically motivated than they are anything else. And if you watch the history of some of these countries, then yeah, that's ended up what's happening. So let's jump back. So I've said, you know, the former Soviet Union as an example of a planned economy. Are there any others that you can think of that are pretty close to it? Other countries in the world? What do we think? China is close, yes. China actually tends to refer to itself as a market socialist economy. There is one other one, gotta be careful on that, you might fall. Here is another one. What other country could we be referring to? Let's sell that stuff to your t-shirt. No. Don't touch anything.
Hi.
All right. So the other country, what do we think it is? It begins with the letter N. Yes, that's it. North Korea. Absolutely. Very much a command or planned economy, controlled right down to who does what, when, where, and how. But the argument, you know, with regards to those negative effects that you're going to see are very true there. Where in the North Korean economy, if you disagree, all right, then you might disappear. If you don't meet the quotas that they want, you might disappear, and possibly your family as well. Maybe the decisions there are more politically motivated than they are anything else. Right? It's a family-run dynasty, so it seems. All right, okay. So yes, North Korea would be an example, and it's helpful to think of real-life examples so that you're able to, put a bit of a label on it and try and think about what it might look like in real life. So the argument about can they ever work? Well, maybe, but maybe not, because of all of these issues, these disadvantages that happen. Now I'd like you to have a go at explaining one disadvantage of a planned economy. Anyone? Have a go. What class are you supposed to be doing now?
I'm having some math.
Okay. So what do you need to do?
I asked for the teacher to help, and figure one out, but the next one, I don't like it when anyone shouts at me. I don't know.
Yes.
Well, I have hard time.
Just tell me what you're supposed to be doing at the moment, son.
Maybe PE or something like that.
Or can you go and find out and do it? You don't want to miss out on PE, son.
Yeah.
All right, got some answers. Low productivity. Absolutely, well done. Potential waste of resources. Yes, indeed. Consumers' needs might not be met. Absolutely, good answers. Well done, team. Keep going. A couple more to get. Answers coming through. No incentive. Yes, indeed. Well done, Dev. Consumers' needs not met. Yeah, organisation. Absolutely. Now, the former Soviet Union, they had this big government body called Gosplan, and they made 5-year plans. So they were planning for the entire economy, but they were planning for 5 years, right, in advance. So, I mean, consider where you are at the moment, okay, then add another 5 years onto your age. Where are you going to be at that point? And that's how far in the future the Russian planning organization was planning. So you'd be still in school, but the Russian planning agency would have decided what you're going to study at school, and then they would have decided what job you're going to have after school when you finish. All right? All right. Yes, good point. Good work, team. Rock stars. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce, this is going to be the last thing that we're going to have a look at today, and then we'll pick up again from here next time. We're going to have a look at a model that models an entire economy, the whole lot. It is so big and so awesome that we call it a supermodel, right? It is going to model everything in an economy. However, we are going to make some assumptions. It's called a PPF, a PPF. What that stands for is this. It says Production Possibility Frontier. Oh, these are apparently some famous people, and they have something to say, which I can't read because it's in Korean. Right? You might be able to read that. This is called the PPF, or Production Possibility Frontier. Right? And it looks like this. It's a model of the entire economy, and it's so straightforward. Right? It's much more simple than you'd probably imagine for a model that models the entire economy. Now, we've made some assumptions. We've said that in this economy, they're only producing 2 goods. All right? So they're producing pizza, and they're producing sugar. That's it. All right? Inside here, well, yeah. So this is 0, because this is like axis on a graph, and you produce all of your resources into the production of pizza, and that's how many pizzas you would make. But if instead you put all of your resources into the production of sugar, that's how much sugar you would make. So this curve then is all of the combinations of pizzas and sugar that are possible to make. But we say you can't make out here. There's no combinations out here. Where this F point is, none of those combinations out there are possible. The reason why they're not possible is because we can't get to them. This is a limit, right? We've got scarce resources. We've got limited technology. We can't produce more than this. This is the best we can do, right? So if we're on the curve, this is actually efficient, right? This is the best we can possibly do, either B, A, or C, the best we can do. But if we're inside the curve, so D or E, that's actually what's called inefficient, because we're not using all of our resources to the best of our ability. That doesn't sound like my son is doing his work. In any case. All right, so what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to move onto the curve. Right? That would be a good thing to do. The more we move towards the curve and onto the curve, the more our resources are going to be fully utilized. What an amazing, amazing, amazing model, right? The production possibility frontier. And look, 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines. And just by drawing those 3 lines, you've got a model of the entire economy. All right, so when you talk to mum and dad and they say, what did you learn today? I learned how to model the entire economy. Just like that. It's amazing. What a cool. All right, team, I'm going to jump back into the meat here. How's an efficient waste of resources? Because they plan, right? They're planning for their economy, but they're not necessarily planning to put all of the resources in the best possible places because they don't know. They don't know what the best use of all of those resources is. And it might be that there is political influence potentially, or it might just be that they desperately want to have 100,000 taps made, right? But maybe that's not the best use of the resources. Yeah. It might be that they've decided that they want Imran to be an air traffic controller. But Imran has no idea about whether he wants to be an air traffic controller. He'd rather be a, I don't know, Imran, what would you rather be? Doctor?
Something that has to do with creativity.
Oh, okay. So creativity. So he doesn't want to be an air traffic controller, but the government might say, this is your job. So that, therefore, would be an inefficient waste of resources because he's not doing what it is that he's potentially wanting to do and what he's potentially better at. All right. Okay, team. Now, we're going to finish up there for the day. If you have questions, please email, or you can stay at the end of the meet and ask. Please review the material that we've gone over today, the different economic systems, the advantages, disadvantages of the planned economy, opportunity cost, what that means, the advantages, the real life examples of that, and then just that brief introduction to the PPC. We're going to pick up again from the PPC in our next lesson, which is tomorrow. All right. So otherwise, team, I will put the recording of the lesson up online. You can review it and pause it and all sorts of things, add notes, right? Go on to the website, the introductory website, the Unit 1 website, have a look at some of the resources in there. There's some videos that you could look at with regards to some of these introduction concepts that might also give you a bit more, push with regards to your understanding of them if you're not sure. Otherwise, team, as we'd say in the land of my birth, hey kornera, which means goodbye for now.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.